to be talking about Judy Satori's book, Sunshine Before the Dawn, and lots of other good stuff, like what's DNA coding? When you read her book, you're being spiritually activated. What does that mean? We're going to talk about that and much, much more this afternoon. And tonight, or this afternoon's Reawaken You, almost there with the sound effects, I'm going to encourage you. Sometimes inertia stops us from doing something. And if you're stuck or in a routine, feel free to try something new. You know, we had internet problems last week, so now I have a new internet service. Luckily, my husband was there to kick me in the butt. I'm very excited. We're taping this live, but this is going to be the last show of the year for Reawaken Your Brilliance in 2013, and I'm happy to announce next year we're going to be going to this time, 4 to 5 p.m. on Wednesday afternoons. It felt right intuitively, and even with inertia, I'm going for it, and we're going to start at a new time, and I'm very excited to have you here. All right, I'm going to tell you about today's guest. Over the course of many years, Judy Satori has been spiritually trained and prepared to recode human DNA, to transmit the sound and light sequences, energy words, that are required to catalyze physical and energetic changes within the cells of the human body, and in doing so, to spark a physical and consciousness upgrade for humanity. The energy that Judy brings through her hands and voice, as light language energy, is part of a divine plan transmitted by the Elohim, the creator aspect of God, to transform humanity for the next phase of Earth's evolution. She's like a container and transmitter of life-enhancing energy from spirit. Judy Satori was born in New Zealand, but now lives in the USA. She began to work with higher dimensional beings in 1997 and to spontaneously speak the language of light in 2002. In her earlier years, she was a marketing and public relations consultant. In midlife, after her connection with spirit, she retrained in energy healing. She holds a New Zealand diploma in physiotherapy and a diploma of natural healing sciences and auroric healing. In 2009, she was awarded an honorary doctorate in religious study. Judy travels and works internationally. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you very much, Julie. It's lovely to be on the show again.
We're excited to have you. So let's talk about Sunshine Before the Dawn. What's the book about?
Well, the book is a story which was transmitted to me paragraph by paragraph. And I think I'll go back to the beginning of how it all began, because it began for me, really, the story, because it's a story about a star called Lyra, which is a 12-dimensional star in the heavens. And Lyra is the place of really being and becoming. It's the place where all souls are first incarnated as they come into physical embodiment from being in just pure consciousness form. When I began to write the story,
Judy, I need to interrupt you a second.
Sure.
Don't talk so directly into the phone because it is creating noises. So talk normally, and I will adjust here.
All right. So I guess, Julie, when I began to write the story, which I didn't know I was going to write, it was because I saw a spaceship in the sky over the lake called Canandaigua Lake, where I actually am right now, actually. And I saw a spaceship in the sky, and the beings in the spaceship contacted me, and they asked me to write the story and share it with people. I didn't know what the story was about, and it was about 4 or 5 months later that I was urged to get up and begin to write. I went to my computer, and I just sat there, and I said, okay, here I am. What do you want me to say? And the first words that I wrote were the dreamers. And I began to write a story about the Galactic Council around 100,000 years ago, gathering together and discussing a problem concerning Earth. And the problem that they had was that the Earth beings at that time couldn't be upgraded, and they had degenerated in consciousness and in form, and really they were struggling. And so the Galactic Council decided to create a new upgraded version, a new upgraded species of beings, and bring them to the Earth. And we call these beings the human beings. And so this story was transmitted to me really word for word, and I just wrote it down. I was quite surprised that it turned out to be a novel, a love story, really. And it really is the story of all of us. It's our story. It's the story of why we came here from the stars and why we're here on Earth and what we're here to do. So that's in a nutshell the story, really.
Judy, do you think because it reads like a work of fiction that that's maybe to help people understand better, or that it'd be more entertaining as opposed to if it was more straightforward and, hey, here's what we're here to do?
I think it was actually transmitted to me word for word as a love story, as a novel. And I think Spirit brought it through that way to make it a work of fiction so that it would be more believable, even though it's true. Every word is true. But it needs to reach people everywhere, and so it needs to break through the filters of conditioned belief that we all have in our minds, and for us to really tune in using the heart. And when people read it, Julie, they really feel remembrance within them. They feel changes happening within them, because the words as they were brought through by Spirit are actually coded. They're coded to awaken us and to switch on aspects of our DNA memory, and for us all to begin to remember the truth of our own being on a soul level and activate certain changes within us, which is part of the ascension process, but it's also part of our reconnecting to our authenticity as beings, as soul beings, and to become empowered human beings, because the word Hu, H-U, as part of the word human, actually means God. So we're God beings created in the image of God, and we have been created on Earth to be as creators, to be able to create our own reality with ease. And this is the path and the passage that we're all moving through at this time on Earth. It's about beginning to be all that we can be and more that we have ever dreamed possible.
Judy, I want you to talk a moment about creating our own reality, because that was a lesson I had to learn. That, you know, for instance, I had some crazy things happen to me actually regarding the show, and I thought, okay, you got to pay attention here because you don't have any drama with the show, but we create our reality, and that was a big lesson for me to learn, because I was like, okay, this is happening. What inside of you is causing this? So for people who maybe, I think that's a big stepping stone to learn that. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Of course. You see, it is a very challenging time for all of us right now, because we are moving away from our conditioned understandings of who we are to more of the authentic truth of who we are. So what's happening, Julie, is that a lot of old beliefs, sabotaging, limiting thought forms and beliefs about ourselves, and conditioned beliefs about our life on Earth and who we think we are in this lifetime on Earth, are being brought up for examination. They're being brought up for our soul, really. It's part of our soul's path of ascension, of wanting us to break free of these old conditioned beliefs. So it seems like we are attracting more challenging situations in our lives, but these challenging situations are really being brought up because there are certain old aspects of self that are vibrating and attracting that energy to come back at us in our day-to-day life, because we attract into our reality the energy that we are putting out. Only for most people right now, we don't know we're putting out these limiting or sabotaging vibrations, because they're so deeply part of the unconscious that they are releasing on a very deep level through us. But the vibration of this energy is what's attracting the experiences in our reality. And so for you, I know what's been happening for you, even though we haven't discussed it. What Spirit are telling me right now is that you're needing to go to a new level with your work. And so the old way of doing things is falling away. And this can be really scary, because I don't know how you've felt, but it's been happening to me as well. The old ways of getting my work out, the old ways of doing things, the old how we even view ourselves and how other people view us, everything is changing. And we're all being forced to go within to the authentic truth of the soul and to feel into the wisdom of the soul self, which is the soul's loving wisdom. It's about connecting to our heart and what our truth is. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And this brings up another question, because you are one of the few people that I would love for your insight on this. All the things had to do with people wanting to be on the show or being on the show. And what was challenging for me was, in one case, it was hypocritical. In another case, someone, asked to be interviewed and I listened to my intuition, which, this isn't the right person for your show. Again, coming back, no judgment, trying to be from a place of observation, but the hatred that came back to me. And so my kind of question is, I thought about it and I thought, wow, there are all these spiritual teachers out here who aren't walking their walk, and again, we're human, and I don't expect everyone to be perfect, but I guess I was very surprised at that level. So, I mean, for people who are perhaps out there teaching thousands of people, but really not honest or have integrity, I mean, do you see like them being more challenged in their life and examining that? I don't know if I'm asking.
Well, you see, I think every human being on this planet is going through a quality control check.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's nobody doing the quality control check with us except our own soul, our own higher self. And our higher self is saying to us, okay, are you going to put your money where your mouth is? Are you going to align with love? Or you're going to align with fear? Or are you going to align with greed or materialism? Mm-hmm. Where are you really coming from? I've been going through a lot of this myself because many people say, oh, Judy, you could do these speeches and earn $10,000 a speech. But I can't do that because my role is to help people, not be a speaker that charges big bucks. I can't do that. And so I'm here to be of service, and I bring energy of God through me, source energy, to be of service and to assist us all to be all that we can be and more. And so I'm not putting myself up there and saying, okay, I'm any better than anybody else. But like all of us, we're being forced to go within our own heart and feel deeply within our heart what is our truth. It's the only way to be, really. But this sometimes brings up other people's stuff. Most often it will bring up other people's stuff. I've had many situations in the last few weeks where I've unintentionally rubbed people up the wrong way because I've needed to stay in my authentic truth. And many people have an agenda of what they want and
mm-hmm.
what they feel from a mental, intellect point of view, not from a heart point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not doing this deliberately. They just don't know they're coming from an intellectual point of view because they're still working through the issues of connecting to the heart. And this is what we're all being challenged with, whether we put our energy into the love from the heart and come from our heart's truth, or whether we align with other energies. This is our choice, and it's also our dilemma. But it's also our pathway to joy and our pathway to peace.
What would you say to someone who is maybe unaware that they're not choosing from the heart, or maybe they're aware but they don't know how to do that? What would you say to them?
Well, it's not really up to me to judge where someone else is coming from. But if I see that someone is not happy, then I can really tell that they're not coming from their heart. Because when we're coming from our heart and we're coming from love, then we are aligned with joy. So what I'd say to anybody who's listening out there, if you're not joyful and happy in your life, then you're not aligned with your heart's authenticity and you're not aligned with your heart's truth. So the first thing to do to get into the heart's truth is to go within, because we can't ask what our heart's truth from anybody else out there, like going to clairvoyance or asking our friends or asking our family what they think we should do. We have to begin to go within our own being, and that is sitting in meditation, not meditation with a mantra necessarily, but just closing your eyes, putting your hand on your heart chakra, and talking to the soul self or the higher self of you, the voice of the heart, which is the voice of intuition, and asking that voice, that guardian protector who is always there, what it wants for you. So you just say something like this: beloved soul self, what will make me happy? Beloved soul self, what did I need to do? And feel into what the heart says. Now, very often the heart will say something which the head will immediately disagree with and say, I can't do that. How can I? I don't have enough money. I don't have enough experience, blah, blah, blah. And this is part of moving through doubt and developing faith. You see, doubt is not real. I've got a little words that I say, and it's the word real, R-E-A-L, real, actually means residue, extending, always through lives. So what we think is real isn't, usually, because it's karmic belief that we've taken in through many lifetimes. And this is our conditioned beliefs, not just in this life, but in many lifetimes. So what the head most often says to us is not real. It's residue extending always through lifetimes. What is real is the voice of the heart, the feelings in the heart. And we always know when we're alone with the heart, Julie and everybody else, when we feel a sense of peace and love. That's our benchmark.
So I think that's so profound, and I love that reel. I need to get that tattooed on my head. But one thing, and maybe this is a question to ask, so when I'm in a challenging situation, I think for me, for a long time, because I was such a pushover, could be easily manipulated, kind of trying now to balance that masculine, feminine, trying to balance standing up for myself and what to let go. And so in these challenges, I've asked myself, what would bring me peace? Do you think that's a good thing, or just because, again,
that is totally the right thing.
Okay.
What will bring me peace and joy, happiness in my life? What will bring me peace and happiness? This is the question to ask of ourselves, ask of our heart, the voice of the heart. The ancient Egyptians called the voice of the heart the Ab, and they saw it as a definite place in the body, in the region of the solar plexus chakra or the core star. It's the voice of the heart, the Ab, and the voice of the heart never lies, because the voice of the heart is the authentic truth of our soul. And it's our soul's inner guidance as to what we're here to do in this lifetime, the lessons and the learnings that we're here to experience, and what will move us into joy, because the whole purpose of living is to be happy. Mm-hmm. And if we're not happy, then we're not living right. We're not living our truth.
Judy, what would you say to people? Because I think a lot of times, this has happened to me. I've heard, which I believe is coming from the heart, okay, you need to go do this. And so I'll go, okay. But sometimes it's not been crazy, but it's just, learning to trust that. So, I'm sure have talked to people who their heart says to do this, but then their head's like, oh, no, you can't do this, and blah, 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 and then the ego comes in. So what advice would you have for that?
Well, when the ego, this is how I experience this. I can only really talk for myself, but when I get out of the love heart vibration, I start to doubt, and when I get the voice of the head, it is accompanied with a lot of stressful feelings in my body. Mm. So I know that I'm out of my heart when I start feeling stressed. And because I, like everybody else this year, has been going through a great deal of transition and change, this is extremely confronting to my personality self, who doesn't like change, and whose personality self does like change, because it's scary. And we're stepping out of the known, even though the known might not work that well, into the unknown. And it's like we can't go back. I often say to people in my classes, you're not a salmon, you can't swim upstream. All we can do is surrender to being in the flow of love and move to where the flow of love is taking us. I don't know whether I answered your question, really. Did I?
Oh, no, absolutely. Yes, no, I think that is. And I want to remind everyone, if you're listening, you can chat a question for Judy, which I'm happy to ask her, or call in at 919-518-9773 or Computers 2K Voice. So, Judy, I don't know. Go ahead. Did you want to finish something?
No, I just wanted to say about the story.
Yes.
Because I never expected to write a story. It was only because I got asked by the commander of the spaceship, who I was out on the deck in the house where we lived in upstate New York, looking out on this lake, the same lake that I'm at the moment, called Canandaigua Lake. It's a very powerful portal to Amenti, which is to do with the pulse rhythms of the inner earth and the heartbeat of the earth. So because it's this very powerful energy portal, this was why I feel I was brought here to live for several years. And this was why I had to write the story here, because of the connection and the energy connections here. But the story is to do with waking us up, and it's a love story about a woman called Isayenya from Sirius and a man from Lyra called Mustina. And they're both members of the Galactic Council, but they can't be together because vibrationally they're different. Sirius is a fifth-dimensional star, and Lyra is 10th to 12th dimensional. So Epsilon Lyra, where Mustina comes from, is 12th dimensional. So their bodies are configured to fit within these energy environments. And the story is that Isayenya has to come to Earth to take into her own soul DNA the 12-strand DNA template that now we all have. Every human being on the Earth has a 12-strand DNA template. And it's time for this template, this true DNA within us, to be activated so that as human beings, as humanity collectively, we might be advanced into a new evolutionary cycle. And this is why there's been all these changes on the Earth. This is why we're experiencing solar flares, energy changes, the Earth shift to the fifth dimension, because we are now being upgraded as a species. This is the story, really.
So, Judy, is this going to happen to everyone? What if, someone's out there, their role is just to be completely unconscious? Is their DNA going to be activated?
Yes, their DNA is going to be activated. But this activation can only really happen when a being is able to bring through their energy and be aligned with a consciousness of peace and love and unity, which means love your brother and sister as yourself. What Jesus really came to speak about 2,000 years ago, and the Buddha taught about, 2,600 years ago. It's about being our truth, being connected to a oneness, understanding that we are in little separate bodies, but really we are all one. We are all part of a universal oneness or universal energy. And at the source of that universal energy is the creation energy, or source, or God, or universal consciousness, however you like to call it. And we are all part of that energy field, which is oneness.
Now, when the DNA is being activated, I think so. When I was in Rome for my honeymoon, and something very interesting happened to me within a day of being there. It's like my heart completely opened up at a new level. I'm sure it has a ways to go, but then someone had sent me an email that knew I was on my honeymoon on Facebook and said, hey, there's a not energy portal, there's some shifting going on in Italy. It's a great time for you to be there, something about love. But so when that heart opened, is that an example of something that's going on when the DNA is being recoded?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You see, the DNA recoding is being done energetically. There's a lot of energy coming into the Earth's atmosphere from the galactic center, the heart of our galaxy, which is the programming center, not just for the Earth, but for all planets and star systems within this Milky Way galaxy. What my role is to be a catalyst, a way shower, an activator, to help switch on this DNA more quickly in many people, so that those people who are also way showers and catalysts and activators can step forward and help empower the people on the Earth and humanity, to help change consciousness on this planet. So all of you who are listening to this show are catalysts and activators and way showers. And my purpose is to switch on that inherent knowledge and ability within you. That's why I speak this strange language called the languages of light, because this is an energy language. These are words of new creation being transmitted through me by the Elohim, who are the creator aspect of God or source, and by other members of the spiritual hierarchy. These are energy words as we were created by the Word in the beginning. These are words of new creation to upgrade us to a new beginning. And we're at this time of new beginning.
So does it matter? I was going to ask you who the higher dimensional beings of light are and their purpose, or is it really a non-issue?
It doesn't really matter. People say who you channeling, or who is my guide, or questions like this. And in the 90s, or even 10 years ago or so, it used to be more relevant, because those beings of light who we might call the spiritual hierarchy, the ascended masters, the archangels, etc., etc. They are there as way showers for us. They're there as a bridge to help us cross over into a new understanding, a more elevated and enlightened understanding of who we are, that we are not just little personality cells inhabiting a physical body, that we are eternal souls here on a journey and at this time inhabiting a physical body, but we're here to be of service. We're here to bring our greater light to the earth and to assist with this transition of the earth. So we are becoming of age. We are understanding that we are not separate. We are part of a greater whole, a unity consciousness, which includes all people on the earth, but it also includes all beings of love and other star systems as well.
Now,
I guess this is the Galactic Council want to bring through in the book.
Now, when people read, this book is spiritually coded, so what's happening to people when they read the book?
Well, I've had many reports of people laughing. I've had reports of people really breaking down in tears. I've had people feeling waves of love pulsing through their body. I've had people who can only read like a chapter of it at a time because it puts them to sleep, because it's so activating. Some people have read the whole book at one go and stayed up till 5 a.m. reading it. We are all unique and individual. So the story will touch you in different ways, touch people in different ways. But it's really our story. But most importantly, probably the major feedback that I've had from people is that they remember their own past life. They remember why they came here to Earth. They feel that they're part of the story. They feel that they are in the story, and indeed they are. Because as souls, we all came to the Earth from the stars a long time ago. We put our hand up for the spiritual mission. We forgot why we're here because of all the karmic situations we've experienced and the many, many lifetimes we've experienced. And this story is to wake us up to the memory of the truth, and so that we might step forward and step up and be all that we can be and more, and be connected to our heart's loving wisdom and do what it is that we've come to Earth to do. Because there's this, I think, in many people, a knowing that there's something important that they need to do here in this lifetime, but they don't know what it is, and they don't know how to connect to it, and they don't know how to do it. And this is also part of my job for Spirit, is to help people connect to their own wisdom and their own truth. We all have a unique role to play. We all have a very special way that we can be of service and assist the earth and the people of the earth.
So is one of the reasons that we need to remember why we're here on Earth, is it to help us all transition to the fifth dimension? And is that part of it?
We're already in the fifth dimension. The Earth, you see, we are being calibrated to Earth frequency, and the Earth has shifted to the fifth dimension. And as physical beings calibrated to Earth vibration, we're already in the fifth dimension, except our consciousness and our bodies have to catch up. And this is why it's so challenging for so many of us right now, is that we are being pushed to catch up to being love. We're being pushed to truly tune in to the heart's wisdom and truly tune into the love, and to let go of other ways of being and behaving in the world which no longer serve us. And you've gone through this. I've gone through this. We're all going through this.
So these challenging situations that come up, because you mentioned you did it, I know I've had it, is that an effort to kind of purge maybe the lower vibration to help raise vibrations and move completely into the 5D?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like when the soul is ready, when the soul finds us ready, when we are ready, the soul will bring the experiences to us that we need for our growth. And we might need to go through grief to open the heart. We might need to go through experiences where other people don't support us in the way that they may have had in the past, because we may need to step out and speak our truth and do what our heart is saying is the right thing for us. And a lot of people around us maybe don't like that, and they will resist our changes. it is very triggering and confronting to people who have always known us to be a certain way when we start to change and become someone different, because they don't know us in that way. And we don't maybe meet their agenda. Maybe we don't buy into that agenda or that role that we've always played with them, which has maybe fed and empowered them, but it hasn't empowered us. And so to empower us and bring, which is to create heart-centered empowerment, we need to learn to trust our own self and to come from our own heart and our own truth in a loving, compassionate and kind way. First for ourselves, but also being loving and compassionate and kind for other beings. If they don't understand our compassion and our kindness as being from the heart, sometimes it's a bit of tough love, then that is their learning, and we have to lead them to their learning. It's a hard thing, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. But I want to, I consider you the expert, and I learned from you. But what I try to do is come from love and open communication, but you can still have a boundary doing that. Being loving and having open communication and coming from your heart doesn't mean anymore that someone can run you over. Would you say that's fair?
I would say that's fair. It's coming from your heart with love and listening to your own authentic truth, but also respecting the authentic truth of another being, which might be different from our authentic truth, and then maybe coming to some compromise around it. But if the other being is overriding your authentic truth, the other person is overriding your authentic truth, then you really can't do anything about that except stand in your own heart, stand in your own heart strength.
I'm sorry, finish.
No, you go on.
Well, I was going to ask you, so for instance, something like the tragedy in the Philippines, is that happening to help open our hearts? Or is that too simplistic?
I'm going to get Spirit to speak about this, not as Judy, okay?
Okay.
This is Saint Germain, and Saint Germain is saying these words. When a person goes through grief and loss, it always opens the heart, and it always creates a greater reflectiveness and a greater understanding of what love really is. It also creates a choice. We can either, for example, if there's limited amounts of food and there's a run on all the supermarkets because there's no food to eat, it's going to test people on a soul level as whether they share that food or whether they hack over somebody else to get to the food first. It's a testing of the soul. It's a time of, they say, Spirit says on the planet, it's a time of quality control testing to see whether a soul, which is housed within a being, is ready for the upgrade. We're being tested, not in a horrible way, but we're being tested to see whether we have got what it takes, whether we are aligned with fifth-dimensional consciousness of peace and love, or whether we are not. It's quite simply that.
Okay. Yeah.
In the Philippines, and we look at the poor people in the Philippines, and it's heartbreaking to see what some people are going through. Now, if we imagine we were going through that, how we would respond and react. Maybe that's the learning for us all here in the Western countries where we're well fed and well housed and looked after in the material way, to really feel with our heart what it must be like to be in a situation where you've lost everything.
Yes.
How would we respond?
Do you also think events are happening again? We like to purge the lower vibration. For instance, just the people call Obamacare, American Health Care Act, has angered a lot of people. Are things happening on a scale like that to help purge anger and fear and other negative emotions?
I think people are really being challenged in business, in government, everywhere. Wherever they are being challenged to move into a spirit of love and peace and unity and to make the decisions based on what is good for the all instead of what is good for the one. And this is what we're all being asked to step up and make these decisions now. We need, as a human race, we need to start looking after the all and not just for the one, and do what is right for everybody. It's been age old. This is not new. This is something that, as beings, we're from the beginning of time when we came to the earth, because the earth is a place of duality. It's a place of soul learning. But at this time on earth, this is much more of a consciousness upgrade and a time of aligning with either the light or the dark, to put it simplistically. We can either align with love and peace and truth and the right way of doing things, or we can align with materialistic greed and self-centeredness. We have that choice.
But so I guess
we all have that choice.
I agree, absolutely. But so if someone chooses to align with greed and fear and hate and anger, et cetera, they're still going to be in the fifth dimension. Will something happen to them eventually to raise? Or
well, they're in the fifth dimension already.
Okay.
You see, as the Earth moves more into this vibration, it's only just gone into the vibration on the 21st of December last year. But as this vibration becomes more stable on the Earth, I believe that there will be, in the people that cannot hold this vibration, there will be a disorder of cells, a dis-ease situation setting in. People won't be able to continue to be aligned on a fifth-dimensional planet unless they can cross the threshold into love. Because we're standing on the Earth. The Earth is vibrating faster. We are energy beings. We have energy fields. The energy that's coming through our physical bodies is now fifth-dimensional vibration. It's purging discordant lower vibrational energy, thought form. If the consciousness cannot align with this new vibration, then the physical body is going to not function as well. It's going to become incoherent in its functioning. And this will maybe usher in illness, disease, certainly emotional dis-ease in our thinking, because it's like all the negative, disempowering thoughts within us from eons will come up and smack us in the face until we get it. So it's likely that the challenge will become more for those who cannot align with the heart, not less.
Okay.
We're pushed. We're pushed until we either we've got to fake it till we make it, basically. Okay. We've got to do it. We've got to be it. We've got to be loving. That's all there is to it.
Okay. It's either, love or fear. That's why it's whatever else derives from it, but those are your choices. Anger, whatever, coming from fear. But all you need is love, like the Beatles sang. They got it right.
Love. Absolutely. They came in the 60s to show humanity all you need is love. The flower power era, to help us get out of our head and into our heart. And now all these flower power era babies are my age, and we are really being challenged to get out of our head and into our heart, because we all got married, we settled down, we had children, we developed the normal 3D life, materialistic life in the world, and now many people are feeling that 3D life that we developed and espouse and adhere to is meaningless. We might have all the material things, but so many of us don't have happiness because we haven't connected to the heart. We haven't connected to the truth of our being. We've gone through the motions for many years. Now it's time to get into the heart.
Yes. I've noticed as I get more spiritually aware, and I've never had a ton of stuff. I'm not completely clutter-free, but because I work, my day job is helping people get rid of clutter and get organized. It's almost, I'm like, okay, we're going to clean out this room now, that I just need to, and I have these moments like, oh my gosh, that'd be great to have, but I just seem to, it seems to be easier to let go of items. And I wonder if you have any thought on that as you kind of raise awareness and consciousness. Is that kind of what's going to happen?
Yes, interesting analogy when you're helping people clear the clutter, because I guess you could say that one of my jobs is to help people clear the clutter of the thoughts, of the mind, of the entrenched, sabotaging, limiting vibrations. That's why I developed the website that I have, which is like a library of energy tracks to help clear distorted, limiting energy vibrations of thought and belief. So I think it's absolutely right what you say. It's a time of clearing the clutter. And we don't need all the clutter, you see. I experienced this when I sold my house and I packed up all my stuff, and I realized that all those things that I thought I needed, I don't really need at all. I've been now traveling and living out of a suitcase for 18 months. I don't particularly like it because I'd love to be more grounded in a home again eventually, but you really don't miss all the things that you thought you needed. You really don't.
Now, Judy, I just had a question pop into my head. If you have any thoughts on what role animals play. I'm still I never had pets as a kid. I was allergic. My brothers and I were allergic to cats and dogs, and got married, and all of a sudden I'm not allergic to cats anymore. So I'm a new cat mommy, and I have just been amazed because I think Joey has helped open up my heart on another level, and I wondered if you had a thought on animals' roles.
Well, I think animals really open up the heart. I think that's why they take little baby animals into old people's homes to help them open up the heart that's been shut down out of grief or loss or loneliness. I think animals, being close to an animal, animals are so empathetic to our vibrations, and they'll snuggle up with us and give us an animal hug whenever we need it, don't they? With their little kittens or the dogs, they know. They know when we're sad, and they know when we need to be cheered up. We're terribly tuned in to energy. Very much.
Now, can you talk a little bit, you did some today and you did some before and I interviewed you, what light language is and what you speak, and what's the significance of it? Because you're the first person I met that talks in light language.
Okay. Well, the spiritual languages of light, it's a multidimensional language, really. There are many different versions and many different dialects. All of us, every human being on the earth, has the ability to speak the light language or languages of light. We could call it speaking in tongues, really, and in churches it's often called speaking in tongues. And when a being is at a certain consciousness level of heart opening, this language will often just be triggered automatically, and this is why it happens in churches. People will suddenly start to speak in tongues when their energy vibration of the heart is activated to a certain level. Their consciousness is activated to a certain level. We're always ascending. We don't suddenly get there and never, it's not a process of I've suddenly got there. Just like the process of the Earth shift on the 21st of December last year to the fifth dimension is not a process of the Earth suddenly having got there either. It's a process of gradual change. So the languages of light is it's a outward sign of a process of soul ascension that a physical being will experience. In my case, it's a little bit different because Spirit have trained me to speak very specific languages of soul DNA recoding, of soul activation, which is teaching the soul on a soul level, and DNA recoding, which is about consciousness, physical and consciousness upgrade. So these languages that I speak most often are designed as coding sequences of sound and light. I also speak extraterrestrial languages from different star systems, for example, Arcturian or Thurian or Lyran. And I've never been taught how to speak these languages. They have just been something that I've suddenly known how to do, and I know how to translate them. So this is part of my own soul ascension process. And as part of everybody's soul ascension process, we are being increasingly activated to remember the authentic truth of who we are on a soul level, and to have the skills and abilities of past lives activated within us. And that's also a lot of my work, to activate soul memory and soul DNA and soul ability and soul wisdom from past lives so that we can use it now, because the veils between lifetime and another lifetime are being broken down now, so we are able to remember our past lives and use that wisdom from past lives in the now time.
So then, so when you channeled Sunshine Before the Dawn, then that was given to you in light language?
No, it came into my head like telepathic downloading.
Oh, okay.
I mean, often I would also start speaking spontaneously in light language, and I would translate that language, because it's a lot easier for me to just speak the language and translate it, funnily enough, than it is to get it telepathically. Because when I get it telepathically, as straight downloading, sometimes my mental mind will come into play. And as I was writing the book, and I wanted it to be really pure in having it accurate, I often would speak in light language, and then I'd just write down what the light language said.
Okay.
Which made it clearer for me. Because remember, I didn't have a clue what the story was about. I had no knowledge that there was a plot. I had no knowledge that it was a novel or a love story, and what each chapter would even be about. So I needed to be really sure that what I was getting was accurate.
So also, can you explain what downloading is when you talk about that? So for people who are listening who might not know what you mean.
Sure. Well, what I mean is, you know how you might hear, imagine that you're on the phone and you have a conversation with a friend, and then you come off the phone and you remember in your mind what that friend said to you, just like they were talking to you in your mind. When I'm talking about telepathic downloading, it's exactly like that. It's like I'm hearing the words in my mind, and then I'm writing them down. It's not like I'm hearing somebody speak to me like I'm speaking to you now. I'm hearing the words replayed in my mind or playing in my mind. Just like you'd remember what someone said to you on the phone, and you're hearing them speak to you.
Okay, that's a great description, because I always thought it would be like you were talking on the phone and hearing that way. I just had another question pop in my head, and maybe you can, if I'm not saying this correctly, you can help me. But I've noticed, and I don't know if these are the right terms, that I'm starting to hear and feel in frequency. For example, I got a letter from someone, and it was supposed to be, it was a thank you letter, but I could read the vibration behind that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I've noticed that that's happening more, and also when I talk to people, you know, I was talking with someone, and I all of a sudden found, I'm like, oh, they're judging me. Interesting. And so I think maybe even if people can't articulate that they're doing that, and is that a result of raising our vibration? If you could talk about that.
Definitely it is. And I often feel the same. You know, I'll get an email, or I will just suddenly feel that somebody is thinking something. Or when I meet somebody face to face, I will just get an impression of exactly what they're thinking, even though they're not saying it. It's pretty interesting, really. And the way we can develop that is by going into the heart, feeling into our being. And that requires meditation, like I said before. And the easiest way to do it is to just put your hand on your heart chakra in the center of your chest and feel into peace, love, and oneness, or unity consciousness. Just feel into the love within you. Feel the love that you are. It's really quite simple. And to create as, you know, the most incredible feeling of love within your being as you can. The way I do it is to create a golden pyramid of light. I place the bottom of the pyramid level with the diaphragm, just below the navel, below the rib cage, and the peak of the pyramid, the apex of the pyramid, in the region of the 8th chakra, which is just above the head. And I imagine, or I deliberately create a feeling of peace in the lower left-hand base of the pyramid, love in the region of the third eye. Now, I put it in the region of the third eye and not at the top of the pyramid, because this is like the eye of the pyramid, or the eye of creation. And I put it at the third eye because this is how we create and manifest. So I feel love in the region of the third eye between the eyebrows. And then I create a feeling of unity or connection with all life. And I put this at the bottom right-hand base of the pyramid. So there's 3 specific vibrations: peace, love, and oneness or unity connection with all life. And when we deliberately create those 3 vibrations, we're actually accelerating our own ascension process. And it's making it so much easier to tune into the voice of the heart, to tune into the love within our own being, and to follow the wisdom within the heart, which is our guide, which will show us what to do and where to go in our lives.
Now, I wanted to ask, Sunshine Before the Dawn was transmitted on December 21st, 2012, and what's the significance of that?
No, sorry, I might have
I might have misunderstood.
That's all right. Sunshine Before the Dawn was the book that I wrote, and I started it in January 2011, and I finished it in February 2012. But the significance of the 21st of December 2012 was when the Earth shifted into the fifth dimension. Now, it wasn't just a sudden boom shift, although it was on one level. It was a fulcrum point of change. But the process of change began a long time before. It began around 1987 with a star alignment called the harmonic convergence, and it will continue on for another 21 years as humanity is activated to shift in consciousness and to develop peace, love, and oneness together on this planet. Because the old ways, as we all know, don't work. And they're all being accentuated now, even more so. People are being tested and required to come into the heart on a spiritual level and on a soul level. Mm-hmm. So does that explain better, Julie?
Yes.
What is there?
Yes. Good. Yes, thank you about that. I wanted to, what advice would you have for, someone might not understand what's going on and with this process, or, they might be in complete upheaval because of everything that's going on. What advice would you have for someone who's in a tough place right now?
I would suggest that you go away on your own for 2 or 3 days, somewhere really beautiful and quiet and peaceful, and really meditate and really connect with your own authentic truth, away from other people's opinions, away from all the cares and stresses and worries. Nurture yourself, show loving kindness to yourself, and take this time, this 3-day period, and 3 days, 72 hours is very interesting because it's the process, the same time that Jesus went through in the tomb before he ascended. So 3 days is a good time to go through your own inner process of feeling into the heart and feeling into what the heart's guidance is telling you to do. And then when you come out of that 3-day process, do an action plan of the changes, how you can make changes in your life. Because that's when we get into the loving strength. Following the heart's wisdom takes strength, and it very often takes courage.
Absolutely. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share we haven't covered on Sunshine Before the Dawn that you think's important?
Only that if people want to read that book, it's available through my website, thesongoflight.com, and it can be bought as a book, or it can be bought as a PDF, or a ebook like Kindle or Nook. But I really want to reiterate that the story is the story of all of us. It's the story of why we came from the stars and why we're here on Earth. It will help you to connect to the truth of your own being and to rediscover joy, rediscover passion, and rediscover purpose. So if you feel blocked in those areas right now, if you're listening, I think this book will help you, not because I'm trying to sell a book, but because it's Spirit's way of connecting with us all and helping us find our truth and helping us discover hope and moving forward from pain and moving forward from disempowerment. And it comes through love, and it comes through accessing the wisdom of our own loving heart.
Fantastic. Now, the one question I want to ask you, the reason I do this show is I want people to to raise their level of consciousness, do what they're supposed to do, and change the world. So you've given us tons of great advice and insight today. But if you were to say, what one thing could people do to reawaken their brilliance, maybe right after the show, before they go to bed tonight, or the first thing that they wake up in the morning?
Okay. Let's do a little exercise then. I want you, everybody that's listening, to put one hand on the solar plexus chakra, which is just below the diaphragm. It's to do with personal power, how we see ourselves and how we stand in our power. And I want you to put your right hand on the heart chakra in the center of the chest. And just understand that when you tune into these two distinct places in the body, you're tuning into two distinctly different vibrations. Just feel through your left hand now into your voice of the soul. This is to do with the core star, or the soul's loving guidance. This is the higher self aspect of you. So you're feeling into your soul self, and you can feel whether that soul self is joyful or whether that soul self is not quite expressing its passion and its life force. And then through the right hand into the heart chakra, feel into the timeless eternal love that you are. And deliberately create love within the heart, as we can create love within any part of our body, just by feeling it and creating that love vibration there. And send that love vibration to the soul part of you that's maybe hurting or in pain or feeling lost. And ask your soul, after you've sent the love vibration to the soul, ask the soul what it most needs to do to be happy, so that your being, your personality self, as Judy or Julie or Mary or Bob, what that personality self expressing through your physical body most needs to do to be happy. And just write down the answer and start to put it into practice in your life.
Outstanding. And for everyone listening, all shows are recorded, so I'm going to listen to that again. We'll have that. Now, Judy, tell everyone it's soundoflight.com. They can get your book there, but talk about your upcoming show and any classes, anything else that you'd like to share, what's going on in your life.
Yes, well, I just want to tell everybody that's listening, I do have a lot of free material on my website. It's at thesoundoflight.com, and it's a library of energy transmissions and activations to help us all be more than all that we can be, and more. I'm in upstate New York because I'm preparing for a series of events that are starting here this weekend. It's called The Transcripts of Mary Magdalene, and it's Mary Magdalene working through me, as she worked through me in La Sainte-Baume in Provence in February, to help to integrate 4 fundamental aspects of love, which is really what I've been talking about on the show this afternoon to a degree. Loving wisdom, tuning into the soul's loving wisdom, loving kindness, standing in our loving strength, and moving as we integrate these vibrations into loving beingness, which then expresses as joy. I'm also teaching a class in Speaking the Languages of Light, also here in upstate New York, Canandaigua. And also I am teaching we're having a breakfast with the Star Nations, actually, which is talking to many different Star Nations, many different extraterrestrial beings. And I'm recording all these events live, and I will be making all the audio tracks available through my website in the next few weeks. So I've also got a lot of online CDs and MP3s available that people can purchase, and they're all designed to help open the heart and to empower on a heart deeper way.
Outstanding. So everyone, and that's soundoflight.com, and you can go and check out everything Judy has to offer. And Judy, I want to thank you again for joining us today. And for those of you who joined us live, and when you see this recorded and when we air this on December 11th, we want to thank you. And I want to remind everyone, if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter or sign up for our newsletter, you'll know about special tapings like this. And we're going to move to this time, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. in 2014. Going to do some changes, which are completely from the heart, so Judy will be happy, and to bring you the best show possible. And check out, we're going to have a class at the end of January, early February on conscious parenting, so check that out. And everyone, we want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you here soon. Thanks. Bye now.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Sundays, 9 a.m. till noon. Health In with Debbie Bruck, Mondays, 11 a.m. till noon. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays, 1 till 2 p.m. Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, the second and fourth Wednesday of each month from 7:30 till 8:30 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Judy Seibert, Wednesdays, 9 till 10 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by ThatVidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.